welcome our next founder, David. David, if you're live, please welcome, and floor is yours.
We go. Okay. Um, my name is David Ellzey. I'm the CEO of Torque3. We're developing a neurorehabilitation platform that uses intense, deeply immersive task-oriented therapy with robotic assistance to enhance neuroplasticity. We believe Torque3's unique approach will result in significantly improved recovery outcomes. And while we recognize that our platform has broad application, even in markets outside of rehab, our initial focus is on stroke neurorehabilitation. Now, the video you're watching right now is of Bart McDonald. He's a physical therapist who owns 4 clinics in Idaho. He's taking a demo ride at the recent American Physical Therapist Association conference that we had here in Utah. And what this video of our current prototype can't show you is how it feels. Beyond what the rider sees and hears, they feel all the subtle G-forces from each turn or change in speed, the bumps, and even the texture of the ground felt through their body, the pedaling, and the steering. Feedback from our servo-motor robotics is so responsive. You can even feel weight and inertia in the simulation. When the rider eases off the pedaling or rolls downhill, they're convinced that they're coasting, and they even feel like simulated wind. And that was actually something really surprising during the engineering and prototyping stage, that something so simple could be so magical. It turns out through having a lot of demo rides out there, a lot of people on it, that coasting is universally enjoyable. Now, this is all to say you don't feel like you're on a stationary bike, but rather the real thing. And as you watch the video, it should make sense to you how the Torque3 platform's most important advantage is this intense, deeply immersive task-oriented therapy we use to enhance neuroplasticity. Now, under the hood, the Torque3 platform is a robotic assisted simulator where the patient works their entire body along with all of their senses and cognitive abilities during treatment. This experience-dependent multimodal integration engages functional brain regions, including the sensory, association, and motor cortexes. And we accomplish this with a suite of simulation technologies that operate as an integrated system using our proprietary hardware and software. The entire platform is computer controlled and all the mechanical functions are robotic. Now, although task-oriented therapy has proven to increase effectiveness in neurorehabilitation, patient impairment and real-world limitations can severely limit treatment options. So we can mitigate hemoplegia with robotics, and I think you can see how we can use visual environments to overcome real-world limitations. But why do we need such a deeply immersive experience that you see in this video? Well, research on task-oriented therapy utilizing virtual reality and robotic assistance has shown that tasks that are continually challenging and continually novel with meaningful rewards result in the most successful treatments. We simply build out on this foundation with the Torque3 platform by delivering the illusion of presence and sense of embodiment required to achieve deep immersion. We then use that deep immersion to have patients suspend their disbelief, which allows us to create the perception of risk. Now, this gives us 2 very important capabilities. First, it adds intensity to the overall experience, which unto itself can improve neuroplasticity. But more importantly, we use the perception of risk to assign urgency and importance to all of the actions performed during task-oriented therapy. Now, as I mentioned previously, hemoplegia causes undue struggle for patients and severely limits the treatment options available to therapists, making delivering effective treatment difficult or in some cases impossible. Now, we can mitigate hemoplegia by interlinking the controls and using the unimpaired side to regulate intent. The robotics then will instantly compensate for lateral imbalance between the limbs, delivering a smooth experience as if the patient were not impaired. Our goal is to make the patient feel whole again during therapy. So our solution spans across pretty much the entire engineering spectrum. It includes robotics, mechanical, electrical, programming, and even game development. And we think it's important that we have the capability to not only design, but also fabricate our innovations in-house. As such, we maintain a well-equipped prototyping shop staffed with highly skilled fabricators. Our shop is set up, I mean, it's really a nice shop, really set up well. And at their disposal, our CNC machining equipment, various 3D printing systems, and the means for various surface finishing. So as you can imagine, we can pretty much make any part we need. Now, over the last couple of years, the prototypes have been continually evolving using this approach from the P1 proof of concept on the left-hand side of the screen, the P2 test mule. And now we've just begun manufacturing the first version that'll be used in the public. The P2 prototype, the P2M prototype will have a host of new features. Larger patients of up to 300 pounds can be accommodated. The new platform will be extremely easy to access, allowing the therapist to perform a straightforward transfer of the patient to the platform. And to accommodate spasticity, the steering blades can be adjusted to correctly line for any position, and even the handles can measure the heart rate. An operator station for the therapist will show the patient's view on the top screen and the lower touch screen for control and real-time data feedback. Now, several important accessories will also be included. The seat belt will double as a transfer belt and measure breathing rate. Overboots will fit over the patient's shoes, whatever they wore into therapy that day, and then replace the pedals, ensuring the feet are locked in place. The support rail will attach to the overboot and the seat to keep impaired legs upright while pedaling. So a total of 4 of these P2M prototypes are going to be manufactured and used in about 3 months in our alpha program. This program is designed to expose the platform to use in a clinical setting while validating our main value proposition through revenue generation. Later this year, we'll be deploying 50 of the yet to be designed P3 prototypes in a pilot program in select clinics across the US. Now, like I mentioned before, we are also very lucky. Torque3 is fortunate to have so many great people on board. In short, we have a total staff of 19, excluding our 3 science advisors, including a fantastic executive team that would take 10 minutes alone just to give them justice. Myself, I'm a serial founder with a background in immersive development. Tim is a neurobehaviorist, and he's our expert on the brain. Joey's a psychiatrist with startup experience. He's also a medical director of rehabilitation at a local hospital. Nevin's been working with me about the last 20 years in system architecture and integration, and Martin is a certified accountant with a long history of pulling startups out of the fire. Now, I think it's going to be a story with a lot of startups, but due to the broken worldwide supply chain, Torque3 has been weathering delayed deliveries along with what I would call exorbitant pricing for our raw materials and various components. That pushed us over our projected timelines and budgets for prototyping for this stage of the company. So we are opening an interim funding round of $600,000, of which we've already raised about half through existing investors bumping up their equity stake. Prior to this round, we raised $1.4 million in pre-seed investment. We're planning to go for a significant seed round in early in the Q3 of this year. So this interim round could be good timing for anyone that's interested. If you are, just reach out to me. We can arrange, and I can give you a much more detailed presentation than this quick interview. And questions?
Thank you, David. I think very well designed and thought-provoking, and you actually really engineered the whole presentation. Very engaging. I think a lot of investors should give you a lot of time, and that's the whole idea of this startup showcase. So with that compliment, I will open up the floor from my fellow judges, and I'll come back later.
Okay.
Can you please comment on the traction and where do you plan on placing your product, and if you have anyone pre-contracted?
We are still too early for customers. We don't expect to commercialize until 2023. However, we will be, like I said, we'll be putting 50 of them out. There's a lot of interest from a lot of clinics to get some of these units in there. But that's not our prime customer. I think that's what you're really going to be asking here, is because I left it out of my presentation, is that we are going to be looking at actually going out after more of the independent. Not that we won't handle the 200 or so comprehensive care clinics in the US, inpatient, outpatient, but there are about 5,000 clinics in the US who don't have this kind of equipment, and that's where the majority of the outpatients going. And we want to really make a difference there. So we are doing a revenue share model that has an insanely low upfront cost of like $500 just to cover our install. And then we do revenue share on the revenue generated by each machine. Means we're in the red for maybe about half a year on the cost of the machine. But then after that, we now have a nice subscription sort of status where it's actually in location. Did that answer your question?
Yes, thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was wondering, do we already have data on the outcome, that the outcomes actually improve, that this Torque3 is doing what it's supposed to do for patients?
No, that's going to be the clinical trials, which is phase 3. Once we get part of the 50 machines are actually going out into clinical trials. 2 are going to Germany. I believe we already know that USC and Stanford are lined up as well. So those will be to the clinical trials. It'll take about 3 years from the start of those trials till we actually have validated data. However, having said that, we do have anecdotal data for what we are calling the soft data side of it, which is the psychological impact of the riders. So individuals that have had TBIs, like the one you were watching in this video, that was Wade. He was a state trooper from Montana who had TBI, 3 gunshots to the head. And like I said, soft data, he performed amazing and did things on it that, and just came, I mean, psychological difference. He came away incredibly happy. If you can imagine a system like this to where it's the first time they haven't had a caretaker to have to help them do anything. They get to make their own decisions, go out and do things as if they were unimpaired. So it's a sense of freedom they've been lacking, a sense of independence they've been lacking since their stroke or TBI incident. So we do have that as anecdotal information, but we haven't deployed enough out there to get a bulk of this. It'll be telling in the alpha program because of the sensors, we'll have, even though we can't publish it, we will have actual data of, like, say, differential of the strong leg and the weak leg. We'll see what over months, what the difference changes, but we're not, it won't be publishable.
Thank you. And my last question is, if I would like to purchase one for my clinic, how much would it cost?
Your clinic would be, we would do a revenue share. So what we would do is your clinic would pay $500 per unit up front. We would bring and install them, and then we have a revenue share model based upon the individual type of clinic that works best for them to help them actually, we don't want to put anybody under. So that's the way it will work. If you would like to participate in the pilot program, you would have to I would have to hook you up with the individual, our biz dev individual who's aligning those 50 or 40 some odd clinics that will be involved in that.
Thank you.
Thank you, David. So as a serial entrepreneur myself, before becoming an investor, I'm going to ask you a heart-to-heart question.
Sure.
What makes you really excited about this venture, and what's the impact you want to create?
This is the first company I've had that the end isn't money. The end of this company is getting out there, getting enough of these units out there where they can do good. This all really came about because Walter Greenleaf at Stanford sort of did some nudge theory on me to push me in this direction when he saw what we were originally developing for consumer fitness. And he saw what we were doing as an advisor for us, and nudged us into neurorehabilitation. And in that research, I ended up talking to a friend's father who had a stroke, and realized the state of neurorehab is not much different than it was in the 50s for the most part. I mean, there are a few fancy machines here and there, but there's nothing really groundbreaking that's been going on. Okay, there's a few things in the upper body that have been doing really well, but for the most part, it hasn't moved much. And I've had some successful companies, and so I thought, let's do one that can have a bit of a legacy to do good. So, and I know it's a corny story, but that's the truth. So
that's a truth story. And
yeah,
it comes with a lot of wisdom. right? When you reach after serial entrepreneurship, I just wanted to ask you so that other founders who are listening to this startup showcase and other audience can understand this comes with very deep thinking and very deep understanding about the problem and the impact you want to create. So thank you. Any last bit which you would love to share with other founders that your past learnings and how you are accelerating this startup? Give a one piece of any thought wisdom.
Yeah, I don't know. I keep telling myself I'll never do this again. Every time I have a company, and somehow I end up doing it again. But yeah, I don't really know if I have much advice for other people. It's my normal advice for individuals is be careful before you start a new company. It may not be as what you thought it was going to be, but that's not great advice. It's not very enlightening. But
Never say never.
yeah, never say never, but it's not going to be the joyride you thought it was going to be. How's that?
Yes.
So
Thanks for laughing. Thanks for laughing. We all need some fun in entrepreneurship. So thank you, David.